Welcome to The Read Along,
a mini book club for your ears.
I'm your host, Scott.
I'm your other host, Anita.
And join us on a journey through a good book,
one chapter at a time.
Do you like talking about movies? Do you like talking about mediocre movies? Do you like talking about how you could have fixed mediocre movies? Well, I certainly do, and you can listen to me, Scott C. Bourgeois, along with my co-hosts Greg Beaver and Liam Creswick, as we give our notes, and I have some notes. You can follow it now on your podcatcher of choice, or support it by visiting patreon.com/IHaveSomeNotes.
It's windy.
It has been windy.
So windy.
Like, for the last several weeks, the wind has been very bad.
And I don't mean like, oh, a pleasant summer breeze, right? Like, it's windy.
Yeah, like blowing stuff down and around with you.
Yeah, like maybe let's not go outside because it's windy.
Windy, yeah. We've been fluctuating temperature-wise here for the past several weeks, though. Like, it'll go a couple days where it's, like, quite warm, and then a couple days where it's quite cool. And, of course, when your temperature fluctuates like that, you end up with lots of high wind.
Yeah, and that's what we've got. We've had one, like, genuinely nice day in the past week. We've had pieces of nice days, right? But never one whole nice day.
Yeah.
Sorry, I take that back. We've had one whole nice day.
Yeah. And I realize that it's a weird thing to complain about when the eastern part of the continent is about to get hit with a severe heat wave.
Yeah.
But that's where we are. Like, that's what our weather is doing right now.
We live in a fun world.
It's true.
Yay.
Yeah. You want to know what else is a fun world? A fantasy one.
I don't know. It seems less than fun right now.
Well, at least for the people involved in the murder case.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that seems like a good segue.
Yeah, it feels right.
So we'll get into a brief recap of our previous chapter, Perimortem 4, in which Theodore gets murdered again.
Maybe. Probably?
Yeah. Well, no, definitely gets attacked.
Yeah.
And probably murdered again.
Probably.
And that leads us into chapter 24 of The Undetectables by Courtney Smyth.
So even an entire chapter later, I'm still not sure if Theodore is all the way dead.
The implication is maybe not.
I just don't know.
At least not dead the way that the other victims of the Whistler are.
Right?
Because we've previously discussed in the book, and it's not just us discussing it, but the characters in the book have previously discussed that the ritual that the Whistler seems to be reenacting requires kind of like accumulated soul energy. And that means that those souls are being, presumably, stored somewhere.
Right?
They haven't passed on, as it were. So Theodore's ghost has been, if anything, not so much murdered as abducted.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know, because the chapter talks about him going into nothingness. And it's hard to have a murder victim without a body, which they also...
We'll get into that in a second.
We'll get into that. The way the Perimortem was written and the way chapter 24 was written, like, the word choices don't solve anything for me. They don't answer that question of whether or not Theodore is actually all the way gone.
Yeah, and there's certainly a chance there that he's not all the way gone.
Yeah.
That he can be rescued from the ritual.
So this is what I'm going to operate under. Okay.
Further to that point, more so than the other victims of the Whistler, because their corpus is gone, whereas he is just animus.
Yes.
He's just a spirit. So his spirit could, in theory, be saved.
Yeah, elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what I'm going to operate under until further notice.
Okay.
I'm going to assume that Theodore is dead and gone. Ghost dead.
Gone is more appropriate because he was already dead.
I'm going to assume that Theodore is gone, and I'm going to hope, crossing all my fingers, that he can come back.
There's definitely the chance of that.
Yeah.
Based on the matchup.
I feel like the chance is probably kind of slim, but I'm gonna hold hope anyway, because I really like Theodore. and I don't want him to go.
Well, you're not the only one who really likes Theodore, because the girls do too.
Yeah,
and
okay,
they're
so
pretty devastated when they burst into the basement, which is being magically sealed
yep,
during the
was.
murder, and discover that he has indeed been whistlered.
Yes.
Like, they even flip up his ghosty shirt
Yeah,
and discover that there's carvings
the
there.
carvings are there. The whistling is so loud they can't hear themselves think.
And then it abruptly stops, and then he just kind of like dissipates into nothing.
Yeah, they check his frozen ghost form. I don't want to call it a body because that feels inaccurate. And he's just sort of like he would be unconscious, right? He's just not like locked in place, but like down,
Yeah.
you know? And then he just sort of evaporates.
Yeah.
After a few moments. Ugh.
This is where a numbness washes over everybody, especially our focal character, Mallory.
Oh.
Mallory even kind of admits to herself in this moment that while she empathized with Cornelia and Diana over Ben's death, over Beckett's murder, this is the first time that it's actually affected her. And now she, like, it puts it into sharp focus for her.
Yeah.
Now she fully understands the kind of loss that they've been dealing with the last couple days.
Right.
And it hits like a cement truck.
I've talked about this before, the difference between understanding something and knowing something.
Yeah, experiencing.
Right?
it.
Like
Yeah.
you can understand someone else's grief, but you don't know grief, right? Until you've experienced it yourself. Now Mallory is in the worst possible place.
Yeah.
Like she was in a rough place before.
Once again, crisis mode kind of kicks in, and they realize they need to call in the murder. So they contact Detective O'Sullivan,
Yeah.
and a very unusual conversation ensues.
Yeah. I don't want to say it was the wrong thing to do to call Sully because it absolutely was.
Yeah.
Right? Their friend has been murdered by the Whistler, right? He is a victim the same as all the rest, but he's a ghost. And the whole experience calling Sully about it was terrible.
Yeah, it does not go well.
Yeah.
It does not go well enough that it actually reinforces their suspicion of Sully.
Yeah. And rightly so. Like, I can see why Sully is extra suspicious to them now.
Because she's essentially discounting an attack by the Whistler.
Yeah. She's like, no, the Whistler killed our friend. Like, he died the same way as everyone else. There was the loud whistling noise. The carvings are on his stomach. He's gone now. And she's like, yeah, but he wasn't really a person, so he doesn't really count.
And there's nothing we can do.
And there's nothing we can do about it. What are we going to do? Like, you can't identify the body. There is no body, right? Like, he was already dead all those years ago.
Now, this brings up an interesting thing for me. Because on the one hand, Theodore was considered person enough to be taken into custody as a suspect in this case.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not considered a person enough to be considered a victim of murder.
Right?
Interesting system you've got set up there, Ghoul Council.
Not great.
Not a great look at all.
Not great, you guys.
For this society.
The optics are bad.
That's very strange to me.
Yeah. Also, that phone call didn't sit right with me for multiple reasons. One of which is, we have another victim here, even if it is a ghost. Why don't you care? And because there has been another murder. Yes, okay, he can't officially be a victim. That's fine. You might still care that the Whistler has struck again.
Yeah, and you might
right?
want to investigate the scene, even if there's no body there.
Right?
Or question the people who witnessed the attack.
Right?
But there's no interest in that from her.
Yeah, so the fact that the girls suspect Sully even more now absolutely tracks with me.
Yeah.
Like, this seems crazy shady.
It does.
It does.
Not enough that I'm willing to say that Sully is a suspect in the very real sense for me. Because I'm pretty sure we already know who the killer is.
I still agree with you.
I think the problem is just that the police in Racton are legitimately incompetent. Again, they're a bunch of glorified rent-a-cops who are being led by a serious detective who's hamstrung by this whole society. And its very lackadaisical approach to justice, which is, I think, a central theme in this book at this point. Because we've seen the double standard being applied to Theodore. We've seen the double standard being applied to Cornelia. We know for the fact that the worst slap on a wrist people get in this society is go away.
Yeah.
And we have a Whistler who we suspect might be doing this to enact justice on some very powerful beings who committed a terrible crime.
Yeah.
In order to become very powerful beings. So the lack of justice in this society seems to be a problem. And it's one that's coming more and more to light here. So I legitimately think that Sully might want to help them and just can't.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing she can do.
That's sort of where I was going as well. It's like, she's either just bad at her job or is trying to be good at her job and is being held down.
I think it's legitimately that the society she's working for isn't helping her.
Yeah,
in any capacity.
I'm worried that Sully is just forced to be bad at her job, right? Incapable of being good at her job.
Yeah.
Which might be it. Or maybe she's just done with this whole thing. I mean,
I don't think so. I think she's invested in stopping the Whistler.
Let me rephrase. The girls are single focused, right?
Yes.
Their job is to solve this crime, stop this killer. Detective O'Sullivan is a police officer who has multiple crimes to deal with all of the time. They
probably
might not be
as much
big,
in Racton, yeah.
They might not be as big profile as the Whistler case, but you can't tell me that the police officers there just sit around and twiddle their thumbs doing nothing all day. Police officers have stuff to do.
In theory, yeah. And I legitimately believe that O'Sullivan is doing everything she can. But it does not look good from the perspective of the girls.
No, it really doesn't.
Because,
again, I understand why their suspicions of her have raised.
And they don't know what she's doing on her side. We're not in her point of view. We're not in her boots. So it's hard to say.
Yeah.
She might actually be zeroing in on an actual suspect.
Maybe.
Or she might also be on a wild goose chase because someone in the mayor's office is stringing her along too.
Also maybe.
And let's be fair, from her perspective, the girls look super suspicious right now.
Absolutely,
because
they do.
It's all of their acquaintances who are dying in a case that they're meddling in. Without official sanction, it turns out.
Yep. Doesn't look good.
Not even a little.
I feel like maybe there are no good guys in this scenario.
Oh, no, the girls are definitely good guys in this scenario.
Oh, they are the protagonists.
But in fairness, they were also tricked into this case.
Yes, so that is very true.
If nothing else, that's pretty clear at this point.
All right, let us quickly go over the new information we have regarding the case. You touched on this earlier, and Mallory has brought it up again, that maybe it's not as simple as you just have to go out and kill all of these people. Like, sacrificing their souls isn't the same as, like, keeping their souls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's not necessarily an immediate sacrifice because I believe, and I haven't looked back in the book on this, but I believe it was earlier referenced that collected souls were then offered as a sacrifice at the culmination of the ritual. Mm-hmm. So that seems to be maybe what's going on, which is why I said it might be more that Theodore was abducted than murdered. Yeah.
Yeah. Which kind of, now that the ghost has been taken, that sort of sheds a little light on that. Also, what kind of insane magic does it take to take a ghost?
Well, whatever insane magic the Whistler is using.
So insane.
So.
Dear God, you want to talk about Mallory? The thing about Mallory is Theodore's death has brought all of those raw feelings back to the surface, right? There's a whole bit. Theodore, her friend, the only one who didn't abandon her, the only one who still cared about her, the only one who still supported her. Not all of that is true.
No.
Hardly any of it is true. But that's what's going through Mallory's mind right now, and I'm worried that she's going to have a horrible regression and spiral out of control.
Well, hopefully not, but I guess we'll find out as we move into next chapter, which is chapter 25 of our novel. You'll want to read up on that in time for next week. In the meantime, of course, as always, you can give us a little rating and a review, because that helps us out.
It does, and we like it.
Yes, you can also reach out to us on social media.
Oh, yeah, pick your poison. We are on X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Goodreads. We are at the Read Along on any of them that need the at.
Yep, you can also send us an email.
Absolutely. We are thereadalong@gmail.com.
And with that said, as always, we love you very much, and we will see you next time.
I'm gonna miss him.
Thank you for joining us on The Read Along with your hosts, Anita and Scott Bourgeois. All Read Along music is by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Cover art is by Aaron Beaver. Be sure to join us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Read Along, and check out our group on Goodreads.com.